Bridget Mary, unmute.
Thank you, Mary Teresa. Welcome. It is a joy to welcome all of you today to this wonderful forum on the Aramaic Jesus Prayer. It's a special joy to introduce Reverend Dr. Patricia Fresen, a theologian, popular speaker, and one of the first Roman Catholic women bishops in the worldwide RCWP movement for gender equality that challenges a culture of sexism and patriarchy in the church and in the world. Um, we are especially delighted because Patricia has been a wisdom guide and a companion on a journey to all her sisters and brothers in our movement. And we just warmly and lovingly welcome you, Patricia, to this forum today. And thank you for saying yes to sharing with us. I'll turn it right over to you, our beautiful sister and friend.
Thank you, Bridget Mary. Thank you for the honor of sharing this with you. I want to tell you that in 1999, at the end of the last century, something happened that changed my life. Professor Neil Douglas Klotz came to South Africa, and he is an expert in Aramaic. And he spoke to us about the Aramaic version, the original version of the scriptures, of the New Testament especially, because Jesus spoke Aramaic, not Greek. Jesus probably spoke Hebrew in the temple, and Aramaic is related to Hebrew. However, I was fascinated, enthralled by what Neil taught us, and I did a course with him. And since then, for the last 23 years, I have been working on versions of the Aramaic, translations from the Aramaic. And I'm so thrilled to be able to share this with you tonight. I'm delighted to share this with anybody, and I hope that you will tell other people and pass this on. So could we have the first slide, please, Mary Teresa?
Yes.
So we are unpacking the Aramaic words of Jesus in the Our Father, what we call the Our Father. The first word is Abwoon, which I will explain in the next slide. Thank you. Yes. Now, first, there's an introduction about Aramaic, which was the mother tongue, the language of Jesus. Aramaic is a very different language from Greek. Our written source for the Aramaic text is called the Peshitta, which was started in the 1st century and finalized in the 4th century. The name Peshitta in Aramaic means straight. That is, these are the straight, the original, the pure words of Jesus and the stories about him. The Peshitta is the only version of the New Testament written in Aramaic.
Okay. Alrighty.
Could I ask you, please mute yourself? Thank you.
Can we just go back to that first one, please?
I'm sorry. Okay. By doing
And one back further. That's it. Thank you. The Peshitta is the text of the New Testament used by the Church of the East, and they still use it. They do not use the Greek version that we have. The books of the New Testament were originally written in Aramaic, but later, actually quite soon, translated into Greek by the 1st century Christians. The reason for that was that Koine Greek was more or less the universal language, just as English is becoming the universal language in the world today. The one used then was actually Greek, and they thought so many people will not understand Aramaic, we better translate it from the very first century into Koine Greek. But this never happened in the East, where Aramaic, or various forms of it, was the lingua franca of the Persian Empire, as it was called then. Now we call it Iraq and Iran and Syria, places like that. All our translations are from the Greek translation, unfortunately. Whether it's English, Afrikaans, French, German, Italian, Spanish, and so on, what we have is a translation of a translation. It is very enlightening to read a direct translation from the original Aramaic, and that's what I'll be doing with you tonight. Sorry, for me it's night, today in the Our Father. We get a whole new insight into what Jesus actually said. And the Our Father is a very good example of that, as you will see now as we start unpacking the Aramaic version of the Our Father as Jesus taught it. Thank you. Next one, please. I want to say first, before we begin the Our Father, the word to pray in Aramaic is shalu, and shalu means to open oneself, to make space within oneself. And we can translate it, as you'll see, is to become a resonating space for your vibrations. That's actually the next part. And the picture down in the corner on the right-hand side is of a young girl with her arms wide open, back. She is opening herself, making space within herself for God. That's what prayer is. Open myself, make space within myself for God. Next, please.
I'm just going to remind everyone, please, if you've just joined us, please put yourself on mute. Thank you.
The Our Father starts with these words, Abwoon de Buash Maya. And we say, I've got the English translation next to it, we say, Our Father in heaven. The word our is not there. The word Abwoon, I've broken it down for you. Ab comes from Abba. Now we all know that Abba means daddy, papa. But it's joined to woon. And the WOON part, the BWN, is actually the one who brings to birth. It's mother. So Abwoon actually means father, mother. Now in English and in many languages, we don't have a word that means father, mother, except perhaps parent. But when you speak to your father or mother, you can't use the word parent in talking to them. But in Aramaic, you can. Abwoon means both father and mother together. And I remember when I was much younger, one of the priests suggesting that we start the Our Father with Father, Mother. And I remember thinking, no, why can't we must say the Our Father the way Jesus taught us? Well, I have now found out that Jesus taught us to say Abwoon, not just Abba, but Abwoon, which is Father, Mother. And I've broken it down for you. The Ab is from Abba. The woo part, WOO, is the breath or spirit or wind. It's woof. And the N, if you say an N yourself, you will hear that as you say the N with the tongue on your upper palate, the breath vibrates, N, and feel the vibration in your lips, your mouth, your nose. If you say it with me, N. So Abwoon is father, mother, but the whole word comes from this breath or spirit, ruh, which I'll talk about later. Anyway, Abwoon, and then Debwashmaya, I'll just take one little bit out of that, and that is the SHM in the middle. SH, they didn't write many vowels in Aramaic. So SHM is actually Shem. And we will come back to Shem in the next slide. It's a very important part of the word. And the translation of that is Abwoon, father, mother, and I've got it at the bottom of the page. Father, mother, source of all that is. That's the actual beginning of what we say as our Father in heaven. What a difference. Father, mother, source of all that is. I'll come back to the Shem in a minute, but that is so much more, not just in heaven. And in fact, in Aramaic, there is no word for heaven as opposed to earth, because God is in everything that is, in the whole cosmos. God is not up there in heaven and we're down here on earth. And that wasn't the way Jesus thought when he taught us this. It's father, mother, source of all that is, that Shem Maya is everything that is, the whole cosmos. God is in everything that is, and is the source of all that is. So that's the beginning of Abwoon de Washmaya, which we have really mistranslated as our Father in heaven, which is so much less and so different. Thank you. Next slide, please. There I've still got Abwoon de Boashmaya, and I've got Shem, which they would have written not in our alphabet, but I have put it into our alphabet as SHM. We put in the vowel when we speak, and we say Shem. And Shem is name, or light, or vibration, or word, or radiation, or resonance. It means all those things. A word in Aramaic has many meanings, and it was translated by the Greek translators as name. Hallowed be your name. That's all, but it's actually Shem is the vibration that starts in God as the source of all life and movement and breath. The vibration, the light, the radiation that comes out from God, who is the source of everything that lives and moves and breathes. And the Ayah part, the Boashem Maya, is the shining or the vibration. Vibration is very important in Aramaic, especially with regard to God, that actually we living creatures are vibrating. Every living creature, whether it's a dog or a camel or a little beetle or an ant, whether it's a flower or a bush or a tree, it is vibrating. Everything that lives is vibrating. And that constantly comes up in Aramaic as Shem in so many words. So this Debois Shem Maya is the light, the vibration, the radiation, the resonance, that ayah that goes out, as I say at the bottom there, from God the source to everything that is in the whole cosmos, in our expanding universe, which according to that new telescope they have, our universe is much, much bigger than we ever thought, than we can even imagine. And God is the source of all that. And the beginning of the Our Father, as we say in English, the Our Father, the Abwoon de Boashemaya, is the vibration that goes out from God as source into the whole expanding, huge, vibrating, living, breathing cosmos. Isn't this wonderful compared to our Father in heaven? Thank you. Next slide, please. Oh, I've just summed it up. It's oh, Father, Mother. I've got that with a dash in between because it's one word. We mean divine parent, both masculine and feminine. We are all masculine and feminine, men and women. We are all made in God's image. And Father, Mother, source of all, your vibration or your name, but name doesn't mean that much to us. Vibration or light or radiation means much more. Your vibration, your name, your light radiates throughout the cosmos. That is the beginning of the Our Father in the language of Jesus, in Aramaic. It just boggles my mind every time I say it. Thank you. Next one, please. The next little bit, which we translate, as you can see at the top, hallowed be your name, is in Aramaic, it's net kadash shemak. Now the shemak, can you see the SHM? It's shem again. It's vibration. And it's the divine name or light or sound or experience or vibration. Kadash is holy. That's the second part of that first word. And net is may it become or may it be held holy. And so it actually means may your divine vibration be held holy by us. And another way of translating it, according to Neil Douglas Klotz, I've got at the bottom, we need to create an inner space for the oneness, for God to live inside us and to let God's vibration be held holy inside us. May we hold God's vibration holy. Not just hallowed be your name, which again sounds to me so minimal, so much less than what was actually said by Jesus in Aramaic. Next one, please, Mary. Oh, I've just summed this up. Net kadash shemak, let me be a resonant space. If I hold your vibrations as holy, let me be a resonant space, like the space inside a violin or a guitar. If there was no space, it wouldn't vibrate, but it becomes a resonant space. That's what I need to be, to make space within myself, shalu, and it will be a resonant space for the vibrations. When a violinist plays the violin, or if you play the guitar or any of those instruments, then it's the resonant space inside that makes the music sound and come out. Another way of translating it is using the word light instead of vibration. And then Douglas Klotz says, you could say, focus your light within us, make it useful. But that's a bit more of a loose translation. The top one is better. Let me be a resonant space for your vibrations, rather than just hallowed be your name. Thank you. Mary Teresa, next please. Tete Malkuta. Now, the word, this you can also get, you can find this on the the website of Neil Douglas Klotz. It's called Abwoon, the first word of the Our Father in Aramaic. You can all look that up. And you can also listen to his songs. Douglas Klotz has put together a lot of songs, and some of them are on the Our Father in Aramaic. And he tells us that the word te, which we've written as T-E-Y, by itself means come. But in Aramaic, if it's urgent and you want someone to come quickly, you don't just say te, you say te. Te, that's come now. So it's an urgent calling. And as I say, the repeat expresses urgency. And Malkutak, as it is here, are the ruling principles that guide our lives towards unity. It includes the collective ideals of a nation or a planet. I remind you that Malkuta was the name of the great mother god she was in the Middle East thousands of years before Jesus. So the word Malkutah, which comes from Malkuta, is actually feminine. It's like a feminine, it's a goddess. And so when Neil Douglas Klotz sings this, he sings Tete Malkuta, Tete Malkuta, Tete Malkuta. Your kingdom must come now. We must live in a way that brings about unity in our nation, on our planet, and how much we need that. And it's actually, we say your kingdom come, it's actually your queendom. Malkuta would literally be translated as queendom. He translates it as your ruling principles or your sphere of influence. Come, tete, come urgently. We need you. Thank you. Next one, please, Mary Teresa. This is the next bit. Neve chevyanach aikana, and then the word we know, de buashmaya afbarha. Now we translate that as your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now, chev, that first word, chev yisnak, is will, your will, what you will. It doesn't mean willpower or willfulness, but what you desire, your heart's desire. What God really wants for us, for our planet, for our nations, for the world. And Arha is earth, but it's a living, vibrating earth, another living being, not an object to be exploited. And Neil Douglas Klotz translates this part, which we have in English as your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. It's much richer than that. May your heart's desire for unity and harmony penetrate or radiate through or vibrate into every part of the cosmos, just as it does the earth. Beautiful. Thank you. Next one, please, Mary Teresa. This one I love. I want Havlan Lachma Desun Kanam Yaomana. We say, give us this day our daily bread. Now, the word lachma is so important. It is bread, but it is also nourishment for the mind. It means wisdom. It's both bread and wisdom, insight or wisdom or understanding. But Neil Douglas Klotz says the best word is wisdom. And it's related to a more basic word, chokhmah, which is actually in Hebrew, and that is feminine. So the word wisdom is a feminine word. And lachma is both bread for the body to nourish us, but nourishment for the mind, for the soul, for the heart, wisdom. When we ask for lachma, we're not only asking for daily bread, We're asking for daily wisdom, bread and wisdom. And he translates it as, give us what we need each day in bread and insight or wisdom. Thank you. Next, please. Washboklan kaubain aikana daf kanan shwokan kaya bain. Aramaic is very hard to pronounce for us, and this isn't even their alphabet. Neil Douglas Klotz has put it into our alphabet so that we can at least make out the letters. Now we translate this as, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And it is fairly close to what Jesus said. He talks about letting go of the mistakes that tie ourselves and one another in knots. We do tie ourselves in knots, and we do tie other people in knots. That word kaubain are sins or failures, mistakes, tangled threads. I haven't translated every single word, but you can find it if you look it up in the Abwoon website. But this would be the translation of that sentence. Loose the cords of mistakes or sins binding us, just as we release the strands we hold of others' guilt. That is fairly close to forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Except that I find the expression loose or loosen the cords of mistakes or sins binding us stronger. I like that. And we have to release the strands that the way we tie other people up. We must release those, even if they are sins or hurts. We have to let go of them. The ones that we bind ourselves up with, and the ones we bind up other people with. Thank you. Next one, please. Wela tachlan lel nesyuna. And we translate this as, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. You may have read recently that Pope Francis wants to get this translated better. Thank goodness, because this, as I say, is probably the least understood and the most mistranslated line of the whole prayer as they translated it in Greek. In the Aramaic version, no one outside leads us into temptation, least of all God. So to say to God, lead us not into temptation, really does not make sense. Wela tachlan is, don't let us be seduced by the appearance of things, by false appearances. Don't let us be misled by false appearances, or the word seduced is quite good. And nesyuna is something that leads us to inner vacillation or agitation and diverts us from the purpose of our lives. And that happens with many things and many circumstances and many people. Let us not be misled. Let us not be diverted from the purpose of our lives. Or don't let us be tempted by false appearances. That is really, really different from lead us not into temptation. And when I read that Pope Francis has been saying that this is a mistranslation, he's quite correct, and it must be better translated. I was thrilled when I read that just about 2 weeks ago. So that line would be, I think I've got it on the next one, but don't let us be tempted or seduced by false appearances and diverted from the purpose of our lives. I think I've got that more clearly on the next slide. Can we have it, please, Mary Teresa? Yes. This is the second part, but I've got it at the bottom. Don't let surface things delude us, but free us from what holds us back from our true purpose. Patsan is free us or loosen the hold of something that's binding us. And Bisha, that Elah Patsan min Bisha, Bisha is evil or error. Release us from that. And in the Aramaic word, it is also unrightness or inappropriate action, but it can actually mean actual evil and error as well. So that line would be, don't let surface things delude us, false appearances, but free us from what holds us back from our true purpose. That's a better translation, much better than lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. I think that's the last one. Just go up, please, Mary Teresa. Yes. I want to explain why I have not put in anything. You know how we often end, for thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Or for yours is the kingdom, the power and the glory. Jesus did not say that. That was added 3 or 4 centuries later. They said this prayer needs a proper ending. So they put in, for yours is the kingdom, the power and the glory. But that isn't there in the Aramaic. What Jesus would have said at the end of this one about let us not be seduced by false appearances and so that we forget the purpose of our lives, Jesus would have said, Amen, A-M-I-N, which means may it be so. That was the way Jesus ended it. And I did not put in the last bit because that was not in the Aramaic. It was added later, actually in Greek. And I've just left it out. I'm trying to give you the Our Father, as we call it, the Abwoon de Maya. I want to give it to you as Jesus taught it, which for me was a life-changing experience. And I am so honored and thrilled to be able to share that with people. And I hope that you pass it on to as many people as you can, so that more and more people know what Jesus really said when he said, Abwoon de Maya, Father, Mother, Abwoon, you whose vibrations go, you are the source, and you whose vibrations go out into the entire cosmos, the entire universe, not just our Father who art in heaven. This is so much richer, so much more wonderful. And this is the prayer that Jesus left us. You can find translations of this on the Abwoon website, sorry. It's Abwoon in English, and you can find that on the internet. So do look up the Abwoon website, and you will get various translations of this in English. Because the words in Aramaic can have several different meanings, it is possible to translate it in different ways. This is the translation that Neil Douglas Klotz, who is an expert in Aramaic, he says that this one that I've given you is probably the closest we can get to what Jesus meant with the Aramaic Our Father. Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or questions, I think Mary Teresa will help us work that out.
Yes, thank you so much, Patricia. This was so rich. I think many of our intentional communities will probably be looking at this and, incorporating this into the prayer of Jesus.
Thank you.
What we have.
Thank you. I would love that. Would be very good.
Thank you. So if anyone would like to be able to address any part of what Patricia presented, would you please use the down at the bottom, you'll see reactions and you can raise your hand. So we'll call on you as you raise your hand. Okay, Marita.
Thank you so much. This is, well, we all feel deeply moved, and it's as though you've given us a new path to our Father, Mother. One of the things that I find, that section, I'm not sure what it is exactly, but give us the bread and insight or wisdom that we need.
That's right.
I find when I'm praying the Our Father in the Greek interpretation that I say, give the poor the food they need, because I'm just moved to do that. And that's what I'm thinking, because so many of us here have the food we need. And so I know the we is in there, but I'm feeling, anyway, I've said what I wanted to.
May I make a response there?
Please, please.
I like what you've said, because that prayer, give us, is all of us. May we all have the bread, the food, and the wisdom that we need. And it is for all of us. So you're making a very good point. Many of us have our daily bread. We don't all have our daily wisdom, but we do have our daily bread. But it's up to us to share so that all of us have daily bread. Thank you for that. It's nice to see you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so the next one is John.
In John Otto.
Go ahead, John.
Hello,
John or
John.
John Otto?
So John, go ahead. We're listening. There you go.
You're asking John Otto or John?
John Otto, sorry.
Yeah, I have several problems. The word that we translate in English and other languages daily, many scholars suggest the word epousios in Greek means morrow. Give us today the bread of the morrow, which would be a reference to the bread of the kingdom, the bread that we will celebrate when the creation is fulfilled and all have enough bread. And I'm missing that in the translation we've been given. The other thing that bothers me is the word that that's translated debt. This, in most scholars, is I've understood means it's a reference to the Jubilee year. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. One of the first things that Jesus preached when he proclaimed his mission, returning from the wilderness, he spoke about the Jubilee year. And this is basically the redistribution of property. And I would hate to reduce that simply to a spiritual or a psychological reality. My critique of what we've heard, which I appreciate, is that it seems to spiritualize some things that have very concrete economic and other implications.
Thank you, John. Patricia?
Your references are mainly to the Greek translation, and I am talking about the original Aramaic. So I do not believe that the original had anything to do with the Jubilee year. And these debts that you're talking about, the actual word in Aramaic, as I've said, is loosen the cords, the things that tie us up. That was the word, that's the way to translate the Aramaic word. The other part about debts and about Jubilee year and so on, those things come from the Greek translation, which is, we are then dealing with a translation of a translation. So I'm trying to get back to the original. And I really do not believe that the word debts, as it was there, was the word that Jesus used. He used the word that means cords, the things that tie us up, that bind us, and the things that we bind up other people with. That would be my response to that.
Thank you, Patricia. Stephanie?
So thank you, like everyone else says. I can't wait to just meditate on it. And it made me think of when you talk about bread being wisdom and insight, it relates, I think, to the Eucharist too, the taking of the Eucharist. So many times
Yes,
people just eat my body, drink my blood. It's taking in Jesus' wholeness and the bread as and body as all of it, all of him, his sacrifice, but his wisdom, his ways of life, his everything. And sometimes I think Roman Catholics are raised to just, I know as a young kid, you're taught to take in the Eucharist and it's very special, and it's Jesus inside you, but it's all of him. It's body and blood, wisdom, insight, everything. So that's just something that
thank you. You make a very good point there, that this does very much speak of the Eucharist, and that the Eucharist is the food that we need, and we need to be Eucharistic to one another as well. But it also, Eucharist is also insight. As we celebrate liturgy, we learn wisdom as well as being fed nourished by the whole expression of Eucharist and liturgy, as well as being literally fed. But as you say, it's the body and blood of Christ. Thank you for bringing in with this lachma, with this bread, the sacrament of Eucharist. Thank you.
Thank you. Claire Julie?
Well, Patricia, this was just marvelous, just marvelous. There's so many aspects to your presentation that I am just loving. I love the references to the feminine energies and values.
Yes.
The Mok Katak, oftentimes we interpret that as the king. There's even in the Arabic phrasing, there's the that similar word, and it means king or sovereign. But
Yeah.
I love that you've seen the feminine and the feminine in the Hakma
Thank you.
related word. Also, I really love the inclusivity and the focus on the energetic presence of the divine, the frequencies, the vibrational aspect of it.
Yes.
And it's very affirming of a lot of the new spiritual teachers out there that are talking to us about vibration and energy, universal life force.
Yes.
Then I want to also say that I love the reference to the untying of the knots. And I immediately went to Pope Francis's acknowledgement of Mary as the untier of knots. And so more kudos for Mary. So that always really makes my heart sing. And thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for appreciating those feminist words, actually, the words that are in fact feminine. Even Abwoon, the woon part, which is really the one who brings to birth, the mother. Thank you for that.
Katie?
Yeah, thank you. Patricia, the first time I heard you address the Aramaic, Jesus, our Father, was at Mary, Mother of Jesus, probably 10 years ago. And thank you. Again, I get to hear you, and it's so rich. And I just wanted to share that I was blessed, and I think it's a God wink. I've just spent 4 weeks with quantum wisdom. And I could not believe the words in the Aramaic are so connected to science, what science is discovering. and they didn't use anything about physics and that wonderful awesomeness of an atom and the connectedness of all the oneness, and that God is all. Everything ever created, past, present, and future. I can't believe these words are 2,000 years old. And so the truth for us, and science is affirming it, which I have heard, that it isn't the institutions anymore, but it's science who is proving the reality, who is God, who loves us unconditionally. So thank you, Patricia. It's good being with you.
Thank you, Katie. Lovely to see you again. And you've expressed that so well. Thank you. That is so true.
Margaret?
Thank you so much for your insights. And I want to just follow up with what both Claire Julian and what Mary just said. I have been always interested and slightly troubled when I began to hear the translation of the Our Father, considering vibration and cosmic energy and all that. And the joy of it was that it brought this real insightful understanding of God as being omnipresent, and the whole idea of vibrational prayer and how we're connected. But the other thing that troubled me was, is this a concept that somehow was known in the ancient world, that they understood this quality of matter and we somehow lost it for a long time? Or are we putting our common, now the new physics, we're putting that understanding like a redaction on top of the Our Father? And I don't know do you have any thoughts about that? Because I'm wondering if Jesus could talk, I mean, you consider the context as we understand it of the Our Father, it was kind of conversational, when he was saying this. And so if he in conversational discussion brought in these insights of matter and element and vibration and energy, then you would think that it was part of the common understanding at the time. And if that's true, we must have lost a huge part of knowledge that goes to physics and goes to, advanced quantum theory and all of that. So that's been my musing about this for quite a while. And I just wanted to ask you if you had any thoughts on this. And before you do that, I just want to again thank you so much for bringing this to us today.
When Jesus taught the Our Father, his apostles, his disciples asked him, "Master, teach us to pray as John has taught his disciples." And then Jesus said, "When you pray, say." Now, what the words in the Aramaic start, Abwoon Maya. And although I do believe that our understanding of things like energy and vibration have developed hugely through the centuries, even in the early meaning of it, I do believe that Jesus would have meant at least the word energy. There was a word connected to Shem, which does mean what we would call energy. And whether the vibration itself, whether that word existed in Jesus' time, I don't know. But energy, which is the life-giving force, that word did exist, and that was what Shem was. And the fact that we now translate it as vibration, there I cannot tell you whether Jesus understood that as such, whether they used it as such, but they did have a word for what we call energy, life energy. That was Shem. So that much I got from this. We discussed quite a lot with Neil Douglas Klotz, exactly your question, would this translation of vibration, radiation, resonance, would that be a much, much later translation? And I remember that he spoke about, Neil, about life energy. That's what Jesus would have called it, which is exactly what is meant by Shem, that God who is the source of everything that is and of all life, God's vibrations, God's life energy, if you like, go out into the whole cosmos. So part of it I can answer. For the rest, how much, of course, we have developed scientifically. We have come to understood far more about science and atoms and so on. But life energy would be a translation that Jesus would have meant, as far as Neil Douglas Klotz believes. So thanks for the question.
Thank you.
And Teresa? So Teresa, we're not hearing you. I'm not sure why. Nope, no, I'm so sorry. We're just
Can't hear you, sorry.
sorry. Juanita?
Yeah, I love that whole idea of Shem, the vibrating, because a woman, when she gives birth, through her contraction, she's vibrating. We're raising monarch caterpillars on our kitchen table right now. And when they go into chrysalis, they vibrate and new life begins. So I really love that whole image of vibration. The universe vibrates. God vibrates within us as we go out to serve others. My question is, however, is this, I know it's in Aramaic, but can we get a translation that's close to Aramaic in English that we can introduce in our liturgies?
Thank you for that. So thank you, Juanita. It's lovely to see you again. What you say about vibration is so true and important. Yes, on that Abwoon website, just look up, it's Abwoon, Abwoon. It's the website of Neil Douglas Klotz, and he gives various translations from the Aramaic, and one can choose one or the other. The one I've given you is what he believes is the closest to what Jesus would have meant. But as I've said, Aramaic words can have 3 or 4 or 5 different meanings, like Shem, which can mean name or light or vibration or resonance and so on. So it's difficult to find an English translation. I use his as closely as I can. I've heard very different ones from the Aramaic, and I don't like them that much, but you can look on the website. You will find various translations of the Our Father, and some of you have suggested that in your communities, instead of using Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, we would use one of these translations and tell people that it is a translation from the original Aramaic and not through the Greek, which really did mistranslate quite a lot. Thank you.
Before we go on to the next person, I do want to let everyone know who came in late that we are recording this. So, and my apologies for the wrong Zoom link. So you will have the recording. And I know that you are putting some questions in the chat. And right now there's no one reading the chat, but we will read the chat afterwards. But if you want a question answered, please raise your hand now. And you can do that by going to the down at the bottom of your screen. You will see there's a place there for you. It's called reactions. So I believe it's Miriam, even though I see Wanda's name.
Right, I didn't figure out how to change the name, but again, Patricia, thank you so much. What can we say? It's been so insightful and heartening and expanding, and we're just kind of sitting here vibrating ourselves.
We are actually, we're all vibrating.
Receiving these gifts and insights, and and new things to ponder. My question is, will this tape be available to us to share with our communities, with our faith communities?
Yes, it
This
will.
our recording. We can share this then with our own small
Oh,
group.
yes.
Yes,
Oh,
it,
yes.
it will be created
Oh,
as
yes.
a YouTube video.
If you
So
can
you'll be
get
able
the
to-
recording from Mary Teresa and Bridget
Wonderful.
Mary, use the
Wonderful.
recording, use the website. Please, the more you can spread this among your communities, your friends, other people, the better. More and more people should know that we mistranslate the Our Father because of going through the Greek, and we need to get back as closely as we can to the original Aramaic. So thank you for that.
Well, it's just so insightful and warm-hearted. So thank you so much for your own faith and your own enthusiasm and for sharing this wonderful good news with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love doing it. I love having the honor of doing this.
We can do it again sometime, maybe.
Well, I can do others. I can do all the I am sayings of Jesus. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the bread of life. I am the vine. You are the branches. To do those in Aramaic is absolutely staggering. I tell you, the Aramaic, and I only know some parts. It has changed my life. It has changed my images of God. It has changed my whole approach to heaven and earth, to the cosmos, to love, to God. It really has changed me. So I believe that if you open yourself, shalu, which is to pray, if you open yourself to God in this way and go back to what Jesus actually said as closely as we can, it will be life-changing for you too. Thank you.
Anna.
Hi, Patricia. I just want to say thank you for your life witness, really. That's why I wanted to say I've admired what you've done and how you live, and what you did in Africa against apartheid and what you've done for women in the church. So I want to say thank you for that. And I love the words. I love all of that. But really just to say thank you.
Thank you, Anna. That's lovely of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anna from Ireland, thank you for being with us. Okay, Denise.
Thanks, Mary Teresa. And thank you so much, Patricia. This has been so valuable. I have a quick comment and then a quick question. So if I may,
yes.
My comment is that I can really, really imagine Jesus saying, Father, Mother, source of all that is, may your light shimmer throughout the whole world. Although in his first century Palestinian mind, the whole world may have been the Mediterranean and the,
yes,
the countries
absolutely.
immediately surrounding it. But still, the idea still rings true for us today. And it's just wonderful. And that's how I'm going to pray it from now on.
Thank you.
Now my question.
And what's your question?
My question is, how much of the New Testament in Aramaic, the Aramaic original New Testament, survives today? And can it be studied?
Yes, the whole of the New Testament is now in Aramaic. The 4 Gospels were originally written in Aramaic, and they use the original version in the Peshitta. That's Matthew, Mark, Luke. Now, a lot of people argue that they don't think that John's Gospel was written originally in Aramaic. Some biblical scholars believe that John actually wrote Greek and that it was translated in the 1st century into Aramaic. Now, we asked Douglas Klotz about this, and he is not sure whether John's Gospel was originally Greek or Aramaic. He said that it was translated into Aramaic in the very 1st century, but he can't say for sure whether John's Gospel is a translation from Greek into Aramaic or Aramaic into Greek. But now the whole of the New Testament, which they call the Peshitta, is in Aramaic, and in places like Syria, they use the Peshitta. They've never used the Greek version. And I will tell you one more thing. I think you all know that I lived in Germany for 16 years, and I lived in a place just outside Stuttgart. And some, what they call refugees, people from, mainly from Syria, came to live in some of the flats, apartments in the building where I was. And they had learned English. English, as you know, is more or less the universal language. And they couldn't speak German, but they had to learn it. And they could, oh, sorry, we are having load shedding, but I've put on an extra light that we got for tonight. These Syrian people from Syria could speak English. So I was asked by the people in the office to go and talk to them in English because I'm English speaking. So I went down to their apartment and rang the bell and told them who I was, and could I come in and could I invite them to come up to my apartment and have some tea or coffee. And I took some cookies and things with me. And they did. They came up that afternoon and we talked English, to their great relief, because they were struggling with German. And I asked them a few words. I said to them, what is your mother tongue? Oh, they said it's Aramaic. I said, Aramaic is your mother tongue. I was thrilled. Now they're a different dialect from the one that Jesus had, but a lot of the words are the same. The basic construction of the language and the basic meaning is the same. And then I asked them several words, and one word, for example, I will never forget. I said to them, what is your word in Aramaic for spirit? And I said, is it ruha? Because I write, it's in Hebrew, it's ruach. I knew that. But in Aramaic, I had seen it written, I learned it from Douglas Klotz and his people, R-U-H-A or R-U''H-A. And I pronounced it ruha. And I said to them, is that your word for spirit? And they said, no. Oh, they were horrified. I said, what's wrong? What have I said? They said, you must breathe the ha, the H-A. You mustn't voice it. You voice the ru. You say ru and then ha. So they pronounced it for me beautifully, ruha. Ruha. And doesn't that sound like breath, spirit, wind? And they were absolutely shocked when I said ruha like that. So now I always pronounce it correctly, remembering their horror when I voiced the breath part. I don't know if you can hear me because we're on computer, but it is ruha. Can you do that?
Yes, we can hear that.
Yes, lovely. Thank you. They taught me quite a lot of words. And the word about lachma, that is their word for bread, but they were the ones who said, this is the prayer that we all, everyone on earth, has bread and wisdom. It means nourishment for the body and nourishment for the soul or the mind. So thank you for those questions.
Thank you. Ruthie.
Hi, thanks so much. It's so beautiful listening to you, Patricia, and hearing all this amazing stuff. A couple of my questions have kind of been answered a little bit already, because I've always thought that the New Testament was written in Greek, and so it's interesting to hear it that it's sort of got these origins in Aramaic. And I was wondering how interesting it'd be to hear your the translations of the other parts of the Bible, because as you were speaking, I was thinking how much light it shines on the rest of the Gospels, and it really seems to resonate with me of how I read so much of the Bible seems to be about truth and heart. And when I think of life, I think of the image of a heart, beating heart, like a bird, that if you hold it in your hands, it's kind of all life and vibrating with life. And I really
Vibrating, right.
Yeah, that beautiful image of that's one of the earlier people said about the chrysalis vibrating with new life. So yeah, it really speaks to me.
Yes.
Yes, it'd be fascinating to think how that affects our reading of the rest of the Gospels. And I was wondering if I was thinking particularly about the strong man who is bound, and I thought that always confuses me, that parable, we have to bind the strong man before we plunder his house. And I wondered how that, it just made me think of that binding that's in the Lord's Prayer there, instead of the things that bind us. I just thought it's going to be quite interesting, sort of feeling into the other bits of the Bible where the similar words are used maybe. And I also wanted to say, in the Orthodox Church, I think they still use concepts of essence and energy, life energy. There's very much got a sense of that in the Orthodox Church that hasn't been lost, I think. So just to say that as well, I think that was, yeah. And then
Thank you for that. And I will put in one other word. One thing that I do quite a lot of is translating the Beatitudes. You know, we call it, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the meek, and so on. And do you know that first word, which we translate as blessed, because that's how the Greeks translated it, it's actually in Aramaic, tubwaihun. And tubwaihun does not really mean blessed. Tubwaihun means mature. Mature. So Jesus was teaching them, what does it mean to be a mature disciple of Jesus? Not just blessed. I mean, if you are a mature disciple, you are blessed. That's true. But the word itself means mature, not blessed. And things like that have really opened my eyes. And I would be thrilled to share some more of the New Testament with you, translated from the original Aramaic.
Andrea.
Thank you. If you want to think of vibration, not in terms of kind of new age woo-woo, you can think of it in terms of physics. Think of the term oscillation as opposed, instead of vibration. Oscillation is the process of repeating variations of any quantity or measure about its equilibrium value in time, or a periodic variation of a matter between two values, or about its central value. So thank you. I hope that helps somebody.
Very much. Thank you. To come in with the scientific explanation actually helps us to understand it better.
Thank you. Catherine.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, this has been fabulous. Thank you so much. I didn't write down your phrase for lead us not into temptation. What was your phrase about that?
Let us not be seduced or misled by false appearances.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Let us not be led astray.
Yes.
And so that we lose our real purpose in life. Yes.
Right.
But the first part, let us not be seduced or misled by false appearances. And we so often are.
Yes, yes.
Dennis.
Thank you.
I'm using earbuds. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Patricia, thank you so much for this. I'm actually using one of Neil's prayers this weekend for our Sunday liturgy. And our theme is fire for the season of creation that we're celebrating this month. And it's a wonderful prayer. And I just want to read one line of it. Create your reign of unity now through our fiery hearts and willing hands. Help us love beyond our ideals and sprout acts of compassion for all creatures. And I just found that so powerful compared to, what we normally say. So I just want to thank you for reinforcing this decision of mine to use one of his prayers.
Thank you. Would you read that again a little more slowly, please?
Okay. Yep. Create your reign of unity now through our fiery hearts and willing hands. Help us love beyond our ideals and sprout acts of compassion for all creatures.
That is beautiful. And that sounds very much like the way Jesus would have worded it in his language. So thank you for that. It's beautiful.
You're welcome.
Ed. Ed Dilgen or Margaret Dilgen? You need to unmute.
There we go. This is kind of a technical question. I understand the Jewish rabbis study the Hasidic particularly, study the Bible in Yiddish rather than the original Aramaic or whatever they spoke. I wonder if Patricia could comment on that.
I couldn't hear you very clearly. Did you say, are you talking about Yiddish?
Well,
Can you or somebody just say that question again?
The Hasidic or Orthodox rabbis study the Bible, the Old Testament, in Yiddish.
Yiddish. Are you saying Yiddish?
Yes, Yiddish.
Yes.
Okay.
And why don't they, or is there a difference between that and the Aramaic? And what might those differences be?
Yiddish is a dialect of Hebrew, whereas Aramaic is a different language, which is actually more related to Arabic. There is a relation between Aramaic and Hebrew, therefore Yiddish. There is a relation, but Yiddish is actually a dialect of Hebrew, whereas Aramaic is a different language, more closely related to Arabic. So they are different. And I think it's a great shame that the rabbis don't study the original Aramaic rather than the Yiddish, which is different. So the words are different, and therefore the translation would be different, and the understanding of it is different.
Thank you.
Bridget Mary. Bridget Mary, you're still muted.
Okay. Patricia, we would, Mary Teresa and I would like to invite you to do another forum on unpacking the Aramaic understanding of Scripture, and we can have a dialogue with you about what form that will take, or what topic, like Beatitudes or the I am statements, or whatever you wish to do. And then we will put it out through People's Catholic Seminary at a date that's convenient to you, and it will be in our future. And we are so very, very grateful to you and to everyone who attended today, because it's obvious to us that this is an interest of many people, and there'll be many more probably coming in future forums that you will lead. And very, very, very deep gratitude from People's Catholic Seminary, from both Mary Teresa and myself.
So we have 2 more hands up, and then I think we'll conclude this session. So Teresa, hopefully we can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
I think I had my headset in and it wasn't picking it up before. I apologize. I put some of this in the chat, but I just want to speak to people who are expressing concern that somehow this translation is spiritualizing things and not dealing with social justice or redistribution of wealth, which was obviously going through all of Jesus' ministry and all of his teaching. And I have studied Neil Douglas Klotz's work for quite a few years. And in the totality of that work, I want to reassure people that it is exactly the opposite, that the Aramaic is not splitting things apart, that here's a heaven and here's an earth down here, but that in fact, it's showing the how the truth of God, of Abwoon, is going through all realms, that it's breaking apart this dualistic view we tend to have of things that's very Greek and very Western, and that it's bringing us into this more non-dual view of reality. And so there is absolutely no sense of spiritualizing away from the earth. It's exactly the opposite. So I encourage people to explore this on the Abwoon website, explore further with Patricia. It would be just wonderful for you to go into Beatitudes and I am statements. There's so much richness there. And I thank you for bringing this in a way that is accessible to many people that maybe wouldn't be following Neil Douglas Klotz. And so I thank you for bringing this and bringing such clarity to it. And also I just wanted to make that reassurance that there's no spiritualizing away from issues of social justice or redistribution of wealth or people who are starving, that it's all brought into one unity with this work.
Thank you. Thank you. You expressed that very well. I'm grateful for that. You're quite right. Thank you.
Okay, so Dottie and Joan.
Thank you. I was just a simple question, Patricia. Is there a New Testament that really is translated in English that is more accurate and more in tune with what you've been sharing with us today about Aramaic?
I use Neil Douglas Klotz and his website, and on that website you will see one or two translations of the New Testament from the Aramaic that he suggests. I haven't got the actual names here, but you'll find them on the website. They are better than some others that I have found that are not on that website. And I simply found them in a bookshop, and it was all the whole shelf was all scripture, and Hebrew scripture and Greek. And then I found an Aramaic one, but it was so different from what I've been learning in these last 20 years that I just put it back on the shelf. But if you look in the Abwoon website, you will see one or two translations into English that he recommends. And I think that would be the closest to the original Aramaic. So try that. Thank you for that question.
Thank
too.
you.
It might encourage a few other people to do that.
Thank you.
And
My
Miriam.
question is real quick. When you talk about the website, is that Abwoon.com or is there something else?
It's Abwoon.
Is
It's
it
called the
Abwoon?
Abwoon website,
.org.
and it's got a whole lot of sections to it,
Okay.
and you will
Dot
find
org?
them very helpful.
It's
Yes?
.org?
It's .org. O-R-G. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably. I just look up Abwoon and it comes up, but I do it so often that it might just be used to coming up. I think it could be .org. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank
Actually,
you.
I'll check that, and I will let Bridget, Mary, and Teresa and Mary Teresa know, and they can let people know. But I think it's probably abwoon.org. Yes.
Patricia, thank you so much for this today, and definitely you will be back in the PCS forum in the near future. Thank you so much. And
Thank you. It's been an honor. Thank you for all your suggestions and helpful remarks and questions. I have really felt honored this evening, and please share it with as many people as you can.
And Patricia, I will also, with your permission, send out your PowerPoint. Is that all right with you? If I share your PowerPoint with your slides?
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
I didn't
great.
understand properly. So
Yes.
we're in darkness now, and my computer's not all that clear. We've got what we call load shedding, so it's a little bit fuzzy. But did you say my PowerPoint? You mean the slides?
Yes, the slides.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Share that with anybody and everybody. The more
Wonderful.
people that can share that and see it, the better. And it's
So-
all from Neil Douglas Klotz, and I do acknowledge him. Thank you.
So you
Thank
will
you
be
very much.
receiving in your email both the YouTube, which will be the video recording from today, and also the slides. And I would like to remind you that we have a PCS forum coming up in September, on September 27th. It's a Tuesday evening, and that will be with James Carroll, and that's at 7 p.m. So please join us. Again, we will send out reminders and with the correct Zoom link. So I am so apologize. And we also, on October 5th, we are delighted to begin a course called After Jesus, Before Christianity. And that's being offered by Deborah Saxton and Shirley Paulson. And both Deborah and Shirley are contributing authors to the book. So please join us. And all of that is on People's Catholic Seminary, and we will send that out to you as well. So Bridget Mary, is there anything else that you would like to say before we end this session?
Just thank you to everyone, and we look forward very much to many more forums. Please spread the word, and we'll probably put all of this up on What's New with People's Catholic Seminary, a link with the recording link and the link to Patricia's slides. So it'll be available to the public. And Patricia, we are so grateful and delighted in this presentation and in your prophetic, courageous witness. You are a beloved sister and a prophet for our time. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you too. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.